Yeah. Oh, yeah, people. You know what time it is. NGNWR, whatever we're calling the show this week. We might change the name. I'm back, baby. Back and in demand. It's been great. A lot of huge news since I've been on the air. It's been not a couple months. But, you know, of course, we're going to talk about wrestling. I'm going to try to catch up with y'all, too. Catch up with you. Give you some updates in old brand land. NGNWR is on the air. Here we go. Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to the show. NGNWR back on the air. Like I was saying there during the intro, it's been, 2 months or more. I think the last time transmitted a broadcast to y'all was around SummerSlam time, if I do believe, probably either leading into SummerSlam or just afterwards. Don't really know for sure, but regardless of all that, or irregardless of all that, rather, back on the air, took some time to just kind of gather my thoughts. Maybe I wasn't really feeling inspired at the time. A lot of things were going on. I got a list. I got a whole laundry list of excuses. But I'm just not going to go into all that right now. Just know that, I am back. But there's been a lot of things. Trying to find a new format for the show besides just posting it, on SoundCloud and YouTube and all that. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Hopefully going to have a breakthrough as far as that goes somewhere here in the next coming weeks. Took some time off to do a lot of things. Life just kind of taking its hold, and enjoying time with my family, of course. A lot of stuff going on with the band. My band, Stone Tyler, in the middle of recording an album with them and doing a whole bunch of other stuff as well. I also had, switched jobs recently. So, a lot's been on the brand's plate. A lot of strands in the brand's head. A lot of strands in the old brand's head. But finally decided that I'm feeling well enough and feeling inspired enough to go ahead and get back on the air here and talk with my 10 listeners, or however many are out there that enjoy the show from week to week, and going to be looking into new ways to, of course, expand that audience. So good things definitely going to come here in the near future. So you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned. NGNWR, I'm here to talk about wrestling, here to talk about music and play music for you. Also, just kind of whatever else might graze the top of my head. It's also a chance for the brand to kind of talk to everybody personally and give them a nice personal update on what's going on in my life. Whether you care or not, this is kind of like my diary in a way, audio diary of kind of everything that's going on. So hopefully one day after I'm long gone, someone, even if it's just my children, if they want to sit there and listen to me ramble on about the business and so forth. Here it is, hours and hours of it for your enjoyment. So, getting back anyway in business, since I've been gone, it's been 2 months. So, trying to cover everything that's happened since then, of course, obviously is going to be pretty hard. One of the main things I am going to talk about today is, of course, Hell in a Cell, because that's the next big event coming up right here this Sunday. As I'm recording this, it is currently October 21st of 2015. So, big Hell in the Cell card coming up on October 25th, this Sunday. So, I'm going to be breaking that down a little bit later on in the show. Going to cover a few news items that are recent, at least current up to this week, and anything else I can kind of reach in the back of my head that I would like to delve on as far as all of what I've missed goes. There's a lot of time right there, a big lapse in time, and I do apologize to all the fans that were just salivating and waiting so fruitlessly for weeks and weeks. I hate to keep you all on edge. I hate to keep you all on end. But we're back. I'm back for the foreseeable future. So here you go. Whether you like it or not, we're coming at you, ready to throw some stuff down. One thing I want to kind of talk about right at the beginning of the show is an endeavor that I kind of want to announce on here. I'm embarking on a great journey with a friend of mine, as far as talking about personal projects. A great friend of mine and I are actually starting up a documentary project. Not to give too much away, is basically going to be loosely based around Portland wrestling. And we're going to definitely work our asses off over the next couple years to produce a great product for everybody to enjoy. And, of course, be available for purchase and so forth, and streaming and, all kinds of different things. But that's kind of, the basic nutshell around the idea. So definitely be on the lookout for that, and hopefully it would be a nice thing for me to kind of update everybody as that process goes along over the next couple years. I think it'd be kind of cool for everybody to kind of hear it here first. So anyone who that's kind of all I want to go into as far as that goes there. Don't want to give too much away, of course. Before I roll into the first break here, do want to take some time to at least throw out a couple little minor news items that I can cover with you right off the bat that I found pretty interesting. Of course, one of the main things, as I'm recording this here, it's on Wednesday, but I'm sure I won't have this up till at least Friday, so it won't be a spoiler by then. Of course, Tyler Breeze making his main roster debut on SmackDown. So this is one of those things, anytime a guy gets the call up, it's going to be a big deal. At least to some people. There's always, guys that will develop a fan base down in NXT. That's what we've seen over the last couple years at least. And he's no exception to the rule. Had a pretty over time in NXT. Interestingly enough, They never gave him the title while he was down there, which I thought was very interesting. He's one of the few guys to get called up here recently that I can think of, besides like Strowman and Adam Rose and like those kind of dudes. Most of the guys have been getting. That's the thing is they win the title, defend the title for a couple months or whatever, and then it's like they're ready for that call up. This didn't happen with Breeze. They never gave him that trial run with the NXT title to see how he did with that. So it'll be very interesting to see if this is more or less a one-off, how consistent that they have him up there working. A lot of guys, waiting for their shot. And that's kind of what you see all across the spectrum. When you see a guy like Zack Ryder down in NXT, teaming with Mojo Rawley and the Hype Brothers, just down there trying to work, because not having a space on Raw or SmackDown, for a guy like that. So it's very interesting, the ebb and flow between NXT and Raw and SmackDown. Of course, there's a huge argument out there, which I think is very valid, along the lines of what exactly NXT is not really. Some people wouldn't even call it a developmental territory anymore. A lot of people are pointing to it as it's its own entity, whether it's separate, how separate they maintain it from the Raw and SmackDown brands and what kind of interweaving that there is. Of course, everyone knows that they're all connected under that WWE umbrella anyway. But it's its whole new thing, and I'm kind of leaning towards that side of the argument that of course NXT has become so much more than a developmental territory. It's development plus. It's its whole new thing. Of course the parallels have been drawn to that in the ECW. We've heard that debated and thrown out there time and time again, so I don't want to beat that dead horse to death, really. But yeah, Tyler Breeze. So if you catch SmackDown, or if you just DVR'd it or Hulu'd it, check that out for whatever it's worth. I don't really want to give away what's all in the segment or whatever, but that is what it is. So that's kind of the big news coming out of SmackDown and the lead-in to Hell in the Cell. Like I said, I'm going to be breaking down Hell in the Cell probably to close out the show here for you later. What I'm going to do is take a little break here, play you some tunage, and then come back and ramble on about a bunch of random crap for another 20 minutes or so, and then we'll kind of see where this episode goes from there. The brand, Live with Annette, NGNWR, that's what you're listening to, and that's what you're coming right back to after we rock out. Yeah. Ways I used to be. Hey, what's up? We're back. That was throwing it back to the old school a little bit, you know. One of the bands I used to follow back in the day, a little band called Conception out of Eugene. Back in my day, you know, high school days, so many bands going to go see at that time. Smaller bands, you know, larger bands, pretty much any concert I could go to. You know, we went to, me and my friends back in the day, a bunch of head crushers. Yeah, just kidding. So we had quite the times. Saw that band quite a few times. Countless bands that probably a lot of people outside of Oregon probably have never heard of, or you know, even people, a lot of people in Oregon probably unfortunately never heard of. You know, Conception was one of those back in the day. Northwest Royale, D59, Sick 9, you know, Moth, later known as Prod. I mean, the list goes on and on. Grinch, you know, of course, I played them on here. You know, just a few off of the top of my head, you know, that come to mind that I went and saw a lot of back in those days. Of course, it all started for me with a little band called Floater. First went and seen them back in the year 2000. Great friend of mine, Kevin, the Wookiee, turned me on to it. And it really did change my life in a huge way. You know, it didn't really look at music the same after that. That's what helped me have a really big open mind to underground music and music that, you know, was, you know, isn't quite, you know, basically not anywhere near the mainstream. You know, you got to go find it. You know, it happens in, you know, your local big cities. And with Eugene being the closest, you know, little big city that we have here in Oregon, to me, that's where we spent, you know, a lot of our time going to these shows at. Anyway, just to make kind of a long story short here, you know, talking about Floater, my band Stone Tyler, were actually set up to play a bill with their lead singer, Rob Winia. I think that's how you say his name. I've always wondered for years. But anyway, we're going to be playing this concert November 1st out at Delfino Vineyards. It's a benefit, of course, for the untimely tragedies that happened out in our right in my backyard here. Of course, the Umpqua Community College. Incident. Don't want to really get into all that here, but yeah, that's another big thing that happened while being off the air. A lot of craziness and things been going on the last few weeks with that. But this event is not necessarily a direct benefit event like other people have thrown, because there's been a lot of event. There's been at least a few, a handful of concerts in the area that have been fundraisers or benefit events, for families and people affected by the tragedy. This is a little different. Of course, we are going to be. I believe our band is going to be responsible for accepting donations that we will take to, the bank that's accepting those cash donations. A lot of people did a bunch of things. Of course, the one guy made the signs that raised almost $100,000. So this is going to be kind of the same kind of deal. If people want to donate while we're there, of course, we can go ahead and take that money on, to the bank that next day or what have you, and go ahead and make a hearty deposit. But this concert, this benefit event, what it's being called, it's called Healing for Umpqua, and it's more or less just a way for everybody to get together and hear music and come together and support each other and help heal through music. It's a concert, it's a benefit event designed to just bring love and bring everybody together through music and help everyone heal each other through experiencing the music that day. So very honored that, for one, that he decided to come down here and be a part of it, and the fact that my band is playing there too is pretty cool as well. So definitely going to be looking forward to that. And that kind of wraps up my my whole self-promotion plug section of the show right there, talking about my own stuff. Go ahead and check it out, stonetyler.com. Got a new demo track up there too, a little bit of a preview of what is to come off of our album that we are currently recording, and that's going to be out hopefully by the spring. That's when we'll have everything done of next year. Spring of 2016 is the expected release date, probably more or less April is when that's all going down. So very, very excited about that. There's a lot of work that we need to do from here, not just recording, but getting the album together and trying to release the album ourselves to hopefully gain some success off it. It's going to be quite an endeavor. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. So yeah, if you want to check out the demo track, that's stonetyler.com. You can go ahead and give us a little listen. I definitely appreciate it. Moving right along with the show, though, of course, is called No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio for a reason. Is because, Brand, you're supposed to be talking about wrestling here, pal. Sorry, I had to take a drink there. Anyway, so I am going to get back on the subject of the squared circle. Have a few other news items to just kind of throw out there before we get to our top story, which of course is me breaking down the Hell in a Cell card. Very nice and simple, easy thing for me to do that I love to do. Break down those cards for you. One interesting news topic that I came across here while searching, the dirt sheets, online dirt sheets here for stories and stuff. Apparently, there's a story originally reported. I don't really see it. I don't see any kind of a credit to anybody. Apparently, this is something that was originally. Apparently, this is a Wrestling Inc. original, is what I'm looking at here. Sean Ross Sapp reports off WrestlingInc.com that basically WWE, according to Takaki Kidani, posted a comment on the New Japan Pro Wrestling website saying that they were approached by WWE to use their footage on the WWE network. So apparently, and then it goes a little bit further to say that there's an idea for them to show their footage. Of course, New Japan doesn't really seem like they're okay with this because they kind of see this as WWE not viewing them as competition and as a way for WWE to siphon the talent that they want out of the company, which who could blame them? That's kind of where we're going. That's what it seems like Triple H's whole motto is becoming, with him being in a position of power in the company, is that he is not against basically raiding the world of the best talent. I think that's kind of the biggest difference that I can see. Everything that I've read and heard and listened to, when you come across the internet and podcasts and things like that, is, Triple H is apparently responsible for all these changes that have went on with the company. Because you date back 10 years or so, WWE's not touching any of these guys with a 10-foot pole. Anybody that came from TNA, Ring of Honor guys, they've always, that hasn't really been much of an issue to them ever, I don't think. But I think just there was a big stigma as far as what people would call indie darlings with coming to WWE, and it looks like that stereotype, at least for the most part, has been broken. Apparently Triple H wants to get these guys in there, wants them to be able to work, wants them to be able to do all that great stuff. So yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very interesting to see how that all plays out. I'm sure nothing's going to happen with that. And speaking of siphoning talent, and speaking of NXT, speaking of TNA stars and this and that, want to go ahead and cover another big story that actually happened. Started developing a couple weeks ago, of course. Reports from the last set of NXT tapings. James Storm, of course, joining the company in some form or another. Internet reports said that he basically signed on as a wrestler coach. And apparently, looking at everything, it looks very legit. There's a promo that WWE's, his debut has made TV now, and pretty big deal, to have James Storm in NXT, and just a crazy, surreal thing to see. Because, like I said, usually they're not touching these TNA guys with a 10-foot pole, and it's weird because Storm is actually still on TNA television currently. Storm is part of TNA's Championship Series, which they filmed back in July. So, in TNA, that's a whole nother story. That's been kind of developing. Of course, September has came and went, and they're still apparently with Destination America. But come to think of it, I haven't seen any episodes on my DVR. But yeah, he's part of this championship series, so I guess it is still on there. Of course, initial reports is that they were going to be losing their television deal in September. Apparently, they're at least going to be supported throughout the rest of this year, and then presumably Destination America is going to then make a decision about that again afterwards. So, the saga of TNA continues. They're down, but they're still not completely out of the game. Meanwhile, speaking about all these companies, I'm trying to catch up on my Ring of Honor. I'm actually a few weeks behind on my Ring of Honor TV. I DVR the Sinclair broadcast. It actually comes out, for me about 4 days before the episode that they'll air on Destination America. So that's the version that I watch. I'm actually, unfortunately, a little behind on my Ring of Honor. Like I've stated on the program before, as far as Ring of Honor goes, I don't like to read any kind of spoilers or anything like that. I like to watch their weekly TV show in my own fashion and watch everything develop. Of course, every now and then I'll, accidentally stumble across something and find out something. I believe that's what happened back when the Addiction won the tag team titles. Somehow stumbled across it, but since then I've been conscious of not wanting to read those spoilers. But speaking of Ring of Honor, like I said, I'm a few weeks behind. I just came up on the first episode of the tapings from the Field of Honor event. I believe it was whatever they ran concurrently against SummerSlam, I believe, there in Brooklyn. And my gosh, that look of that show looked incredible. I tell you what, for being a small promotion, and there's always that thing where the infield doesn't really look, that full. But it looked like they had the stands quite full, at least the way that they shot it. It looked great on TV. It looked like they were, basically, for the most part, gave the illusion that they were in a packed stadium. That all the, at least all the good seats were full. So, I just thought it was awesome. Enjoyed a really cool match with Time Splitters and the Briscoes, and it was a pretty good little episode. Coming to a really good point in the show. Anyway, I'm kind of getting a little long-winded here. I got to come back, take a little break, come back. We'll talk Hell in a Cell and wrap the whole thing up like a paper towel. So, you're listening to NGNWR, No Gimmicks Needed Wrestling Radio. I'm your soothing voice, the brand, and I'll be right back with you after this jam. The jammer, slap of the bass, man.
Everybody's out to get me, and everybody knows. Rancid thoughts are racing through me and my empty soul. Living, dying's all the same to me, and my way letting go. Putting into this pain I feel inside, and please let me go. All of my life I've been on the outside looking in. Empty hopes and painless dreams, fair-weathered friends. I try to stop but I think it's too late. It's got an evil hold. Light speed ahead and I'm going down and look out below. Footloose and fancy free, I see God, He sees me. Fly through eternity, bloodstains and kerosene. Torment and misery, pray to God, please help me. Break the chains killing me, bloodstains and kerosene. All of my life I've been on the outside looking in. Empty hopes and painless dreams, my fair-weathered friends. I try to stop but I think it's too late. It's got an evil hold. Light speeds ahead and I'm going down. And look out below. Footloose and fancy free, I see God, He sees me. Flying through eternity, bloodstains and kerosene. Torment and misery, pray to God, please help me. Break the chains killing me, bloodstains and kerosene. Bloodstains and kerosene.
Yeah. We're back, ready to close out the damn show for you. It's been awesome. It's good to be back. Promise it won't be 2 months before the next broadcast. For all you loyal listeners out there, Thanks for sticking with me. NGNWR rolls on here. Going to be breaking down the Hell in the Cell card for you. Hell in a Cell card. Actually taking a look at it. Looks pretty awesome. First thing I kind of want to cover, a match got cut from the show. Of course, Orton was scheduled to team with Ambrose to take on Harper and Strowman. Looks like that's all been scrapped. Orton's got a shoulder injury, going to be out for the foreseeable future. Excuse me. And instead of doing a replacement match or trying to work something else out with that angle, the WWE writers just kind of throw up their hands and scrap the match. They did do this thing, which I do want to touch on here real quick. This last week on Raw, they kind of had this play out, but it was a 6-man. It was Ambrose and Reigns. They were supposed to have a partner of Orton, but of course he couldn't be there to take on the Wyatts, which is going to be Bray and Strowman and Luke Harper. Of course, Luke Harper wasn't there either, so that's a whole nother thing. What's interesting about this is that they just kind of put Eric Rowan back out there without any kind of build up or anything whatsoever. He just kind of showed up, with Strowman there, and wasn't really mentioned by the announcers except in post haste. Michael Cole mentioning that, oh, wait a minute, that's not Luke Harper there. That's Rowan. So where's Harper? Yeah, I don't know. It was seriously probably the most anticlimactic return ever made, and it really just kind of, what kind of message does that send to a guy? You know what I mean? Just kind of not saying, but it's like you don't matter if you're here or if you're gone. It's basically just kind of telling Eric Rowan that, hey, no one cares about you. No one even noticed that you were gone. We could put you in and take you out just like that, and no one would know the wiser. So it's kind of unfortunate in a way, but hey, it is what it is. But long story short, that whole match is scrapped. One pre-show match now, 6-man Neville, Cesaro, and Ziggler against Rusev and Sheamus and King Barrett. All these guys this is your, just looking at this match, to be honest with you, I missed a lot of the build up to this show. I did catch this week's Raw though, and just kind of what jumps out to me about this match and all these guys is that this is just this is basically like the 6 guys that WWE has no idea what they're doing with right now, and they're just kind of all like lumped in this like mid-card hell. And it's very, very, very unfortunate. All these guys. Of course, I have my own thoughts about Sheamus. Ziggler is one of those guys I've mentioned. I've said it before, I say it again. He should have been a main event player these last 2 years. It's long overdue. When he won that title back a couple years ago after WrestleMania 29, it was huge over thing, and he got that concussion, and ever since then he's been stuck in mid card hell. That's Dolph Ziggler's outlook. Cesaro, guy screaming for a push. A guy who just has everything. He could seriously be, no disrespect to Seth Rollins, but I think he'd be doing so much more interesting business. Having Cesaro be like a heel champion who could, cut good promos, but actually still like beat people legitimately too at the same time. So Cesaro's of course very underutilized. Neville's still kind of the new kid on the block. He's actually fortunate to be where he is right now, as far as I'm concerned. He's great. But he's one of those guys that, unless WWE decides to go with that, David versus Goliath, storyline, like they have reused and rehashed, several times in the past. He's never going to get the major push unless they do that. Rusev, here's a guy who had so much going for him, until of course he met Cena, and that derailed his momentum quite a bit. Of course, that's the big argument out there, but when I look at it, I see it as, that obviously was WWE's intention, and they did a good job of doing so. They built him up to be a contender, against Cena. That's the whole point. But in doing that, you still have to, make a guy legitimate, again at the same time. It would have helped if he would have went over at least once. That wasn't in the cards for the way everything was supposed to play out, though. So, regardless of all that, or irregardless rather, he should be doing something more right now than just be in mid card hell. He's going to be another guy that he's just going to end up doing who knows what. Like I said, Sheamus, of course he's got that briefcase. I hope he doesn't cash it in. Sheamus is just one of the... I wish he would go to TNA or something I don't really care about or watch, honestly, or watch intently. And Barrett, I love Barrett. Barrett's great. Big problem is, big criticism with him, and I've heard this and seen this a lot. People talk about this out there in the wrestling world, is that he just switches his damn gimmick too many times. That's all he does is, every few months he's got some kind of a new spin on his gimmick. He's never really spent any time perfecting one thing. He needs to be known for something instead of being known for all these different things, every 6 months or so, always kind of changing what he's doing. It's great to be innovative, and it's great to reinvent yourself, but, come on. You have to find a trademark somewhere and find something that's connecting, and I hope he's on his way to that. Anyway, spent way too much time breaking down the pre-show match. There you go, 6-man tag match with all those guys. The mid-card hell 6-man tag is what I'm going to call it. Other than that, this card, though, looks great. I actually cannot wait to watch this weekend. Cena's going to have a U.S. Open Challenge. That should be interesting, whoever ends up accepting that. I haven't really read any kind of spoilers on who that may be, So I'm going to be just as interested as everybody else to as far as who will come out and accept that challenge. Hopefully, it'll be somebody significant. You got the Intercontinental title match. We got Ryback challenging Kevin Owens, trying to get the title back from Owens. This has been a nice little feud. From what I've seen of it, been a nice little piece of business that I think has been well booked. I think both guys are really. I'm a fan of both guys. Matt Ryback at Access back at WrestleMania, and of course Owens. He's great, and this has been just a nice, really stiff. And this could definitely be a haymaker of a match. So definitely interested to see what they do there. I got the tag team title match. Dudley's taking on New Day. This will be interesting. This is, of course, I believe, second match in their series. The first one was last month at Night of Champions. Will this be the night that the Dudleys go over and become God knows how many times tag team champions throughout however many companies? This will probably be like their, 11-time WWE tag team title run if they win them, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. That's really my best guess. So it should be interesting. Will they keep it, or will the New Day hang on to it? Of course, me personally, I've said it before on the show. Huge fan of what the New Day's doing, so I'll definitely like to see them hold on to the titles. Divas title match, Charlotte going to defend against Nikki Bella. Of course, Charlotte broke the reign a few weeks back of Nikki Bella to win the Divas Championship. And this is the big return match. I don't see Nikki going over. I think her time's kind of over as far as that long reign goes. I think she had her time, and it's definitely time for Charlotte and Becky and all those, Sasha and all those other girls to kind of take everything over from here. I kind of see her taking a back seat in this division after this. Maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's kind of what I foresee. Then you have your main events. You got 2 Hell in the Cell matches, which we'll get to here in a minute. First, we'll cover the WWE title match. You got Demon Kane. I like how they refer, Kane's actually 2 different people now. It's Demon Kane and Corporate Kane. So Demon Kane's going to take on Seth Rollins in the championship match. Of course, a nice little juicy stipulation nugget here is, of course, if Kane loses, then Kane's relieved of his Corporate Kane duties. So this basically, we've seen this coming, I think, for a really long time. I see Rollins going over, and I see Kane getting booted out of the Authority because something, I think something new needs to happen as far as all that goes. So that's my prediction for that one. And then you got 2 Hell in the Cell matches. You got Roman Reigns taking on Bray Wyatt, which looks like it could be the cap off to the feud that they started this last summer, which has actually went, at least a few months now, about 3 or 4 months. Nice little decent feud, but it's been so all over the place. And this is really, I believe, probably the first time that they actually had a one-on-one match at the pay-per-view. Maybe they did back at the July pay-per-view, if I remember right, which kind of started everything. Now, I believe that's when Bray first showed up. And anyway, memory's a little foggy on that one, but, it would seem that anytime Hell in the Cell is out there, that's what it's there for, is that it is the feud ender, it's the rivalry annihilator, and it'll be interesting to see what Roman and Wyatt do. The other one, of course, Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker. And it's always an interesting dynamic, when you have two of the same kind of matches in the same card. When they do that a lot with the Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell, a lot of these theme events that they do, TLC. I see the same kind of match, a couple times in the card. And it's always interesting to see how they differentiate the two and try to make both matches unique and memorable in of themselves. Of course, the same thing's kind of expected for Lesnar Undertaker, apparently, is that this is kind of the rivalry ender as far as theirs goes. Be interesting to see if we see a preview of what is to come for at least one of them, if not both of them, after the match. Will it just be a clean finish? Will there be somebody involved that's going to set up something for the future? There's a lot of interesting things, and I think WWE has a really good opportunity to really start some storylines a little bit early, running into WrestleMania season, because that's just going to be right around the corner. We have 2 more events after this event, and you got and then we're getting ready for the Royal Rumble. So make no mistake about it, I definitely think the road to WrestleMania, believe it or not, does start right here. This at Hell in the Cell. You're going to see how things are going to begin to unfold down the road. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have my popcorn ready. Hopefully I'll be in a good mood. Hopefully the Raiders will win on Sunday. So I'll be looking, so I'll be in a good mood for the pay-per-view and everything. But that's it. That's your Hell in the Cell breakdown. Like I said, it's going to be a great show. It's definitely, I think, one of the stronger cards this year since WrestleMania. It's better than the last couple of big events. As far as I'm concerned, Night of Champions and SummerSlam, to me, were both somewhat letdowns. This definitely doesn't look like it's gonna disappoint. Either way, we'll be able to see a lot of seeds planted, hopefully, for the future, like I said. So, gonna go ahead and wrap things up here with you. I just want to say that, wow, it's, whoa, gotta get out of nowhere. That music means it is time to wrap it up, yes. And I just want to say thank you all for tuning in, all 10 of you. It's special, Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell anybody you can, because we're going to be doing some great stuff here. I'm going to be doing some great stuff here. It's going to be fun, and hopefully, like I said, it won't be another 2 months before I talk to you again. And wow, so much to say, so little time to say it. I'm just going to go ahead and let this roll out for us here. Like I said, I want to thank you very much for joining me. And I'll be back next week. We'll talk about the results of Hell in a Cell. Talk about some other news subjects. Gonna also debut some new segments next week. And some not so new segments. I'm gonna actually answer some emails next week, which will be fun. Might even have a special guest on next week. Who knows? Who knows? The possibilities are endless. You'll have to tune in to find out. Find me on Facebook. No Gimmicks Needed. Wrestling Radio. Look it up on there. That's all I got so far. I don't have a website yet. But thanks for joining me, guys. And salutations. Pleasure's all mine. Have a great one. Oh yeah.